Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And in this episode we're going to be talking about toxic dating culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what we're talking about, but we're going to let you know. If you're not doing so already, please follow us across all of our social media platforms at YDFL Podcast. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcast platform, including...
You can ask Alexa.
And you can watch all the shenanigans on YouTube. To those of you listening in the 28 plus countries around the world, thank you so much for your support. And for YouTube, we're trying to boost it up.
Yeah, so we're trying to boost the YouTube following. And if you're listening to us in the 28 countries on all these different platforms like iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Pandora, come on to YouTube. Subscribe, listen, share with 3 friends. We talk with our hands. We almost knock all the glasses over, and you can see the new setting here at the studio.
And the facial expressions. That's what we hear.
Facial expressions.
And ladies, we want you to come to YouTube and comment and share your thoughts because we have so many men that come in here leaving their...
We call them the Fab 15, and we want to believe it's like Fab 50, but we're going to keep it Fab 15 because it just sounds better. But we get a lot more messages from men than we do from women, for sure.
And they're not always positive, so go on over there and
defend us.
Defend us, please.
And they might be right, though, so it's okay, whatever. Who cares?
All right, let's get into it. Toxic dating culture. Look, we all know that whole thing, right? So what are some of the things? Don't call them back right away.
After a date, you're not supposed to call them back right away. They're the ones that's supposed to text you to tell you how amazing you are. If they text you, make them wait. If they call you, throw them in a voicemail. Make yourself unavailable. Sound busy. I mean, you name it. I've heard it. And, it's gone so far, by the way, that I listen to some of the gurus because obviously I've been single for a long time. Plus we do the show. Plus I also want to hear other people's perspective on what you should or shouldn't do. And I'm not going to call anyone out, but these are relationship gurus, by the way. And these gurus, unfortunately, the ones that I follow, or fortunately, or whatever you want to call it, they've never been married, never had kids. And that's a weird thing to me because they're the ones that are educating the new generation to say, ladies, if he doesn't call you back, that means he's not interested in you, and don't call him. And what is it? The Space Girls. What is it? What do you say? The heart makes the heart grow fonder. And
he doesn't call you back because he's intimidated by you. It's
that is the continuous thing that I continue to hear. It's
so bad.
You're intimidating. No. And you come to the point where you're like, nah, he's really just not into you. Or he just wants to play. At the end of the day, a lot of these guys, they'll have their main girl that they go out to dinner and they do the concerts and they do all the things, and guess what they're still doing? They're still poking the ex-girlfriend and be like, hey, do you remember back in the day when we were together? It's come on. And they're still playing the games. And if you're wise enough, you should pretty much alt, control, delete, and block. But a lot of the time, I think we as women, we're guilty to want to be playing that stupid game back too.
What I think is really hard, as someone obviously who's still single after divorce, I think the hardest thing is the messaging out there is that women cannot be ourselves, meaning everything is don't be too giddy about it. Yeah. Don't act too interested. Excited. Don't be too available.
Don't act too smart.
Yeah, if he messages you, don't respond right away. Wait several hours. There's so many parameters, and I'm sitting here going, is it part of falling in love, being in your feels, being able to express it, having them reciprocate it, right? Yeah. And then it snowballs into this amazingly beautiful thing.
I do believe that in dating, though. I will say in dating, and I think it just depends on the way that you date. I've had instances where I started talking to someone, and all of a sudden they're sending me a song every 30 minutes. Oh. And so initially it's kind of cute, but after 2 days of a song, 7, 8 songs, I can't say every 30 minutes, right? Because I wouldn't really make mathematical sense. But they're sending a lot of songs, and it's did you hear the song? And I'm at work. I'm no, I actually have not. I kind of skim through a song because it's not music that I necessarily know. And, sometimes that may not be your love language. And I know for me,
I feel like it's a Latino male thing. Am I wrong on this? Because I really feel like Mexican men, like, it's something about this whole, like, there's something with that, by the way.
Well, this particular person was not a Latino, I will say, but it was sweet at first. It was sweet, and it was like cool. And then I got another song, and then I was like, oh, nice. And then like
the album
and then
dropped.
it's like, did you get the other song? And I'm like, I haven't even listened to the first song you said. Like I don't. Not that I don't have time, because Lord knows, like, I'm on TikTok and I'm scrolling, and sometimes someone calls and I'm like, oh, send them a voicemail. I'm too busy on TikTok scrolling. But point is that, like, I was a little overwhelmed by it, by the way, and he did say, is it too much? And I didn't know how to reply. Like, I'm just like, I got caught off guard, right? Because I don't want to play games, but I'm like, well, you know what it is that I've been at the office, I'm busy, cool song, blah blah blah. And after a while, I was like, okay, this is getting out of hand.
So that's
my fault.
So we did an episode, right, not so long ago, talking about polite. You're being polite. You're being too polite, and it's almost like, let's just get to the truth fast. Like, I appreciate it. I just, like, it is a bit much. Like, I think to just being honest is hard, especially if it's someone you really like. You don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right.
I just know that if I've noticed with women, because obviously we're women, and obviously we know lots of women, it just seems like if we're really into you guys, if you're the Fab 15 listening, and ladies, for you guys, if we really like them, we kind of let a lot of things slide. When we don't really, we're like, everything can annoy us. Like, there's a lot of things that can annoy us. Because if it was a guy that you were super into and he was sending you a song every hour, you'd be like, look, now it's this. And look, now, like, you might be thinking it's cute or endearing or funny or whatever.
Right.
And I do notice, I raise sons, and I would tell my sons, I feel bad for you guys, because you guys have to make the moves and do all these things to figure out that she's just not into you. Because if she's annoyed by you, it doesn't mean don't do those romantic things anymore. It just means she's not the one to do them with.
She's not engaging back with you, so you should get the hint. Yeah. Another thing that I've noticed also with the playing games is you're dating someone for a long time, and he goes on social media and acts like he's single and he doesn't change his status, right? Like, that's another thing that, I've had instances with people that I've talked to, girls, because I obviously have a lot of single friends, and especially because we do the podcast. And what happens is they'll spend a lot of time with this particular guy. They go on vacation, they do Vegas, they do, the crazy, weekend getaways. But the guy is still hashtagging, solo traveler. And the girl's in the background taking the picture. And, these are the things that, you are going to run into. And how do you address this? And this is all part of this toxic culture to be like, so are we just F buddies?
Right.
Or are we more than that? Because, that could be really confusing. And then again, if you're having a good time, the guy's paying for everything, he's taking you on these trips, and you're going to Europe, and you're doing all the things. And then all of a sudden, he's putting himself as a solo traveler, and you took that very picture that he posted. I mean, that could be very confusing, by the way, like, to the other extreme.
I think, look, ladies, we're here to give you some advice, once in a while. We give you a lot of our opinion, and then it's like, whatever, take it with a grain of salt. I think at the end of the day, if there's a big old fat question mark in your head, it's because you're not the girlfriend. If you have to question it, it's because it's just not it. Doesn't mean he's not the one, but it means that you're not. It's like you're being shown where you stand. And I remember when I was really young,
behind the camera,
people were like, where do you stand? Like, where do you stand with this person?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like behind the camera taking the photos, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think at the end of the day, if you have already had the talk and you know that this is your person, you're his person, vice versa, all right, let's take a picture, let's post, whatever, tag him. Or vice versa, right? For him to do it. If he's hesitant, well, now guess what? At the end of the day, he probably just told you you're his girlfriend or whatever, but to take you off the shelf, like Delia says.
Yeah, take you off the shelf, but then he's not off the shelf. So he's still messaging other people.
It is a toxic environment. I know that we went on the dating apps. Even recently, I went on one of them. And everybody, the guys that are more high level, they're just like, can we just get off this app? Like, here's my number. Like, let's go.
Right, they just want to go straight to talking.
And then so I said, well, wait a minute, I'm not really sure. And they go, you don't even understand. Like, the games that women play, like one of them was like, the games that women play, it just makes it such a turnoff. on this app.
Well, I think what's worse, I think the worst thing about this whole thing, in my opinion, is like, it's not even the game that women play, right? You're on you're on this social app, you know, trying to find the one, because really that's what you're dating intentionally, unless you're just looking for a long-term boyfriend, which most people are not looking for that.
That's what it boils down to.
And so at the end of the day, you have these women that have a strategic plan, like, okay, and we've talked about this before. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go to dinner and this guy's going to pay, and I'm going to order, you know, something that you would never order, by the way. And that's another thing that I think is so wrong. Like, as women, it's not freaking cool. If you're not going to order steak and lobster that you're going to pay for, why are you doing that to him? And if you're genuinely not interested in the freaking guy, why make him spend the money? Now, I've been on dates, and I shouldn't be this way, and Rachel's probably going to reprimand me on this.
I'm like, let me take a sip of my coffee before.
Because I feel like if I'm not really interested, and this is true story, I feel like I will try to not order as expensive, and I'll try not to be as much, because I just don't think it's fair. If I'm genuinely not interested, I am not going to order surf and turf. It's not cool. If I'm with my girlfriends and they want to order, you know, at Mastro's, the 3-tier, you know, what is it, the seafood thing, the seafood tower, then cool, we'll order that. But I'm not going to order that if I am genuinely not interested in this guy. I'm just trying to think about it.
I actually agree with you on that. I thought you were going to say about the times you took your card out to pay for half of it.
No.
I thought you were going to, that's where I was prepared.
Yeah. Oh, you're like,
no, we're
not
doing
tequila?
that.
We're not.
I'm like, ladies, we are not doing that. But I love that strategy versus taking your card out, because it's true. You know, why are you going to sit there having this guy pay a $250 bill when you know that it's not going to go anywhere? And you know that as guys, it is tough for them, you know, because they have this whole thing that they have to go through just to get rejected and stuff like that. So I actually like that strategy. I think that's a wonderful tip if you're dating, to say, hey, he takes you to a really lovely restaurant, an expensive restaurant. If you're not that into him, maybe, you know, order light or something like that.
Yeah, but I have heard, obviously, because TikTok's been like, TikTok's raising this generation, by the way, and obviously I sit on there sometimes too, and you're going to hear some of the girls giving the advice that, you know, there's this saying in Spanish, si quiere sol celeste, que le cueste. Mm-hmm. So basically, if he wants like a good thing, he's got to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if you know that you are not interested in this guy, this man, why are you being that way? I don't think that, honestly, that whole toxic culture,
the hit him in the pockets,
is not, is it, like, I'm raising 2 young ladies, and I will tell you, I would tell them, if you are genuinely not, the man needs to be a man, on period.
Yes.
But if you're genuinely not interested because you see things that, you know, they're just not going to flow with you, there is no reason for you to be rude and
hitting them in the pockets.
Yeah, exactly, hitting them in the pockets, and that's part of the toxic culture that I've noticed. Or
the lady at Applebee's.
The lady, she literally went on 2 dates with the guy.
Yeah,
2 freaking dates, and the guy is now doing it for content. So I guess at the end of the day, like, he's hitting her right back, you know. Yeah. Maybe I hope he's monetizing on that. If not, contact Rachel; she'll help you with that. But you know, at the end of the day, I think what's unfortunate is also, like, you go on a date with someone and they say, well, you are not to say thank you for the date. He needs to first thank you for the date instead of you thanking him for the date. I did not know this one. Yeah, you have to wait on that. He needs to be the one to acknowledge that he went on a date. So
that's why I'm single now,
right? Because you're like, thank you for the date.
I'm very pleased and thank you.
Right?
I'm very pleased and thank you.
You know, it's part of, like, growing up, and I don't know if it matters the time and era that we grew up in versus what's happening now. I know that there's this whole equality, though, so that's kind of the weird thing, because it's like the girls, some people will say that girls should go half. If you go to dinner, it's 50-50. I feel that a man should be a provider and a protector, and if he doesn't feel that he can be that, then he has no business being out on dates with anybody.
If he doesn't have the money to take you to decent places or to pay, he can't afford to have a girlfriend. And yet, I think it's a Western civilization thing, because, again, we've talked about this. You go to Europe, and I travel with my sons, and they would not, the servers would not accept the card from me. They would not accept it. They were like, you have 2 young men at the table.
They got to pay.
And the boys were like, oh my God, they were so caught off guard because they were young, but they were like, this is going to be a very expensive trip. Like, they're going to be broke, but right? So it was like really funny. But I loved it though, in a sense. And actually, they loved it. They actually really loved that, like seeing that, because they thought it was like a dead thing. They're like, oh, that's like the olden days. No, it's just the Western.
There's so many things that are olden days now that, you know, when you do see someone doing it, you really have, you know, a liking, or you really appreciate, because it's like the walking inside the curve, the opening the door,
but it feels olden in the United States, but as soon as you leave the country, you realize, oh no, it's alive and well. It's just dying here in the United States.
I think it could be the fact that I am woman, hear me roar. I think it's that whole movement of that. Yeah. No, I mean, yay, but like, it's that whole movement. Like, I still feel you as a woman should be in your feminine energy, even if at home you get a drill and you can freaking put a freaking window up and do some drywalling, because I know that I have the ability to do that.
I'm okay,
but you still have to be in your feminine energy. Like, you still have to let a man be a man. Yes, I can do manly things. I don't want to do them. I know how to do them. But you have to be in your feminine energy.
And is that part of the toxic culture of dating, to say you must be a girly girl in order for him to be a man's man? Is that also part of the toxic thing? Because
I mean, it depends on who you talk to.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Because I feel like anything that slows you down from being who you naturally are is where the toxic games come in. Because if it is in your if you are more alpha female and you want to pick up a drill, or like put up the this, or jump on the ladder, like, I mean, the funniest thing happened when Delia and I were at Home Depot, and it was so funny because there was like this bag of like mulch or something.
Yeah, probably.
But it was, and she goes, oh, they don't have any bags in here, and she thought they're way up there, and I go, oh man, you know, in my head, by the way, and you know, I have a whole ass community where I'm like, you could do anything. I was like, I guess we're not getting mulch today. And
I was like, by the time I
could even get it out of my mouth, this one was climbing. She just
Spider-Manning it up there.
She scaled the wall and like was like, ooh, like dropping these bags down, and I was like laughing, and I thought, oh my gosh, here's the thing. If society says to her, well, you're never going to have a man's man because you're willing to do stuff like that, that's what I think is toxic. So
well, I think I will say though, if if you weren't there and there was my significant other, or there was a man there,
for sure
I would let him get the bags. Like, okay, I'm not going to jump on the rack like Spider-Man. I did do that.
I loved it though. It was like,
I did do that, and I know that, like, even in, because I've obviously been single, and I'm very handy, which is really weird, and I, cook and bake and do all the things, but I'm also very handy. And my daughters are like, and my daughters are like, Mom, who needs a man when, we got you? And I said, oh, no. And I said, oh, no. I said, you still need a man. Like, just because you can do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't let a man be a man. So I wanted to correct that.
I wonder if it's more, we're in a time where it's not about needing, it's about wanting. And I think that, that's where the shift is happening. And I think that that's where then, like, people are not understanding the difference. You know what I mean? We're in an era where, technically speaking, we don't technically need. The hard thing is, I think men love being needed, and stuff like that. And so that's where it's a tough, kind of scary balance for the guys and for us.
I mean, and if you really think about it too, I mean, I'll flip it on the other side, right? Because I like to be fair. I mean, men technically don't need us either. They can essentially, hire a housekeeper, a cook,
a surrogate to have their motherless babies.
They can literally just do their thing, and they don't really necessarily need us. But it's different from knowing that you don't need someone, but knowing that you want someone.
Them. Exactly.
And that's a little bit different in my opinion. So I agree with you.
Yeah, it's happening where this is the first time I think in society where both sides are in a position of not having to need, but they want. And then guess what? That creates a sense of entitlement to an extent. So I think that there's a lot of push-pull and trying to have some old values, but then have a modern take on it. We're in a very confusing time.
Well, and it is very confusing also because you're getting different people's perspective on how you should or shouldn't be. Like, I was watching a video where a girl's like, well, I know about all these nice fancy cars, and this guy took me on a date, and, I've been in many... Maserati, and she's like, but I was pretending like I didn't know how to open the door, this damsel in distress. So You know, you have someone like my younger daughter that's 17, she's hearing her because she doesn't have anyone to kind of, you know, talk to or have an understanding on how she would need to act, then obviously she's going to act like she doesn't even know how to open the door to a freaking car. And to me, I mean, Maserati isn't like it's like just a freaking car, but I get it. And so my point to that is that I get that you should act like you don't know a lot, and we've talked about this, and you have to dumb yourself down, but why? Like, if genuinely, you know, I'm not saying be a know-it-all, but why do you have to dumb it down so much that you have to be like, I don't know how to open the door? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it is, I know.
It's weird.
And that's the thing that's making it so difficult and toxic in this dating culture, because you have a whole generation of women that were told by their mothers who felt oppressed in their marriages or whatever, told by their moms, go get your education, go get independent, go, you know, you got to learn how to provide for yourself. And it's the moms projecting their own fear, right, of what they've been through. So they raise these daughters. Daughters went and got their education. They're out in the career world. They're doing the darn thing. Looking back, we've talked about this. No marriage, no kids. The guys are like, And even myself, that I was married as long as I was and everything, after my divorce, my ex, you know, he had like a drinking problem. And one of the times he came by to pick up the boys, or he was sober, but whatever. But he was saying, you know what, I think that you're probably going to be single a very long time because you're too smart. And I remember looking at him and I thought, oh, and the reason I brought up the drinking thing is because during that whole era that he was an alcoholic, essentially, he would have these digs. It was always like these digs, even like in our marriage and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So he would take something that was really positive about me, right, and then he'd find a way to like turn it on its head. Oh yeah. And so it'd become like something I should be insecure about. Right. And so I was very aware at this point. He says it, and I'm like, what? Like. And then I said, no, it just means I need to find someone that's smarter than me. Right. And he just kind of looked at me, you know. But the point of the matter is that it was a thing that he must have thought of that probably he resented about me that came out of his mouth, because if you're not thinking it, it's not going to come out of your mouth. And it did, over time, make me see areas where men would go, I really like her, but she's, you know, she's an MBA, or like, I really love her, but I really am falling for her, but she has like her whole law firm. And like, there was like something about that kept highly educated women that got the men a little bit like a little unsure. Yeah.
I know that there was a moment there, and I know this is going to be like, we're sidetracking. I know that there was a moment there where that was a big deal, right? Like where you studied, where you went to school, college, blah, blah, blah. I think we're coming into an era where it's cool not to be in college. It's cool not to have had your degrees. It's cool to be a college dropout. That's like the cool thing, is to be a college dropout. So I can see, you know, both sides, like depending on who you're talking to. I know that sometimes people will get intimidated by, you know, how intelligent you are, because obviously they're probably they're not like heavy thinkers like you are. And so that's why they're like, oh, well, you're never going to, you know, it's going to be really hard because everyone's just dumb as shit. And that's not always true. And there's always someone that's going to appreciate, you know, the fact that you're an entrepreneur, the fact that you've started businesses, because they can see how they can possibly, you know, have you be part of their team. But on a side note, though, what is really ironic or weird to me is the people giving the advice on what to do don't sound smart. Don't act like you know. You don't act like you even know how to open the door. Dios mío. You know, don't call back. Wait on their texts. Call them in the morning. Let them wait for a day. Like, go to dinner with him and order the things. Go to lunch with the other guy. Get on the social app and just like, you know, freaking hit them in the pockets. All these guys, like lunch, breakfast, dinner, you know, brunch.
It's the bench.
The weekend thing. Go on vacation. Use them for that. Like, the things that I hear, and it's so freaking mind-boggling.
And it's a lot.
It's like a lot. And then there's a part of me that's like, damn, where have I been? Because maybe I need to get up on that. Yeah. But I think it's bad advice.
Yeah. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, the hard thing about it is, we talked earlier about the need versus want. And I think that when you're coming into a place where you really want something for yourself as a woman, you know, it makes it a little more challenging, okay? Yeah. Because when you need it, you are willing to compromise more. When you need it, you're willing to make decisions based on need. Meaning, like, I got to play this game, I got to dress a certain way, I got to dye my hair blonde, I got to get implants. Whatever it is, that's a need energy, okay? A want energy, I think, is very different. You're very comfortable with yourself. It's like, I would like a person who mirrors me, or who's at my level, or who supports, whatever, okay? Mm-hmm. It's a person that compliments you. And so I think that in this culture, this toxic dating culture, it's confusing, as we already said, because how can you show up and be authentically you, and still find someone and still attract someone? And I think that that's the challenge. So women are, as men, willing to play these crappy little games, compromising who they are, not being authentic to who they are, because they kind of know, you know what, the guy's not going to go for me then. Or should we be saying, well, then if I'm here and he's here, he's never going to come up here. I just need to surround myself with more people that are at my caliber, more people that are on my level, so I have more options instead of trying to convince a guy that's just not there. Yeah. You know what I mean? To come up and see.
And that's another thing that I've heard. It's like, you're at a 6, the guy's at a 4, you're expecting him to come up at a 6, and he's never going to do it because he's just at a 4 level. And then now he's with a new girl, and that girl only requires a 3. So in your eyes and whatever they're posting, he is overdoing it. But you are never at his caliber anyway. You were up at 6 and you wanted more. And it may not be with the toxic culture, but I think a lot of the times we do compromise who we are, what we do, and what we're about, and what we believe in order for us to kind of, be intertwined with the person to say, okay, well, if I say this, he's going to like that. If I say that. When in reality, like, let's just say you like to cuss like a freaking trucker, and, you have to hold it back. And then 6 months later, he gets to know who you really are. And you like to cuss like a trucker. Yeah. That's me.
It's like you're just prolonging the inevitable. Right. My whole thing, I'm always talking about get to the truth faster. It's like getting further faster.
And you always said that the therapist that you had seen, I remember the story you told, like, maybe first season, about how you can only fake who you are
for 2 years
maximum.
He was such a sweet man. Everybody encouraged me after my divorce, because I was married so young. They're like, so young and so long. Go talk to somebody. Just you never know. It. Like, and I sat with him. He's the sweetest old man. But if you go to season 1, you'll see that episode, because he literally said to me, okay, honey, like, when you go out there and you're dating, I just want you to know something, because I had zero dating experience.
Can fake it.
I was a kid. Yeah. He said, the first year, if they propose, after the first year, make sure that the wedding date, is a year after that, because no one can fake it for 2 years. And I was like, 2 whole years? And he's like, it takes 2 years to see.
Imagine you're like 2 years and one day you're like, I'm good. You're going down the freaking aisle, and freaking she turns into an exorcist at the altar. She's like, starts puking.
I think, at the end of the day, if I want to encourage you to show up authentically you. If you snort and like a pig, when you laugh, like, someone that you're meant to be with is going to find it endearing. You know what I mean? Because when a guy really likes you, I've known the difference between a guy that I probably liked him a little more than he liked me. He liked me, but I probably liked him a little more. I've been there. And I've also
I think we've all been there.
And I've been where we both liked each other very much, and I can tell you, it just flowed. And there were weird little awkward moments, because he didn't know what to say, or he was nervous, or I'd get kind of awkward because I was nervous. But ultimately, though, there was an exchange.
There was a good flow.
Good flow. This whole, like, ghosting, and this whole, like, I haven't heard from him in 3 days, or you know what, he's posting because he wants me to see it, or whatever these things are. Like, at the end of the day, if he wanted to be with you, he would literally be with you.
Right. And I think we make excuses for them also. When we want something, and then we're like, oh no, but he, it's because he's busy, it's because of this, it's because of that. When people want to see you, they are going to find time to see you. I promise you. And this whole, like, wait, don't text him right away, don't call him right away. If you get an inclination to call and text, do it. And if he ghosts you, then it wasn't meant to be anyway.
It just wasn't.
And you know what? I always have this little prayer. What's not for me, then release that energy and get rid of it. Like, I don't need to, sit there and, I don't know, my thoughts about, like, what could have happened and what didn't happen. No. And we're all kind of guilty of that, by the way. But it's like, if the energy's not for you, let it go.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Toxic dating culture. Watch
Yeah.
out. Just be you. Just be you.
Just show up authentic to yourself, and that's it.
And
So-
whatever, let the chips fall where they may. And you know what? You just remember.
And you just remember.
You deserve
Fresh
fresh
lettuce.
lettuce.
And a little tequila.
Cheers.